Hello, beautiful people. How are you doing? It's Monday. Well, I can't say morning, it's noon, and I had about 3 hours of sleep last night. So, for those of you watching the video, I'm very sleepy eyed today. But let's roll with it. Let's go with it. I always say begin with where you are. So, here I am feeling slightly vulnerable in my tiredness, but also surrendered. So, that's a good place to be. I want to talk today about belonging, belonging and the feeling of not belonging. I have been through various versions of the meaning of that word in my life. When I was younger, I definitely felt like I didn't belong here. I had very much the awareness of being not from this planet. And I was very observant. I was very contemplative. And I was often put in rooms by myself. So I had nothing to do but kind of inquire, from the inside out because I didn't have a lot of external stimulation. And that I look back at the little child and think, God, that was hard for her. And at the same time, it helped me create, cultivate, build, um fertilize, in a way. That's the word that comes through my inner world, my inner being. And to that, that was invaluable. But this idea of belonging, I want to talk about it in the context of obviously belonging to ourselves, belonging to our family, our friends, our community, this planet. Just what does it mean? And also, what does it feel like when we feel like we don't belong, right? It's not the easiest of things sometimes. So let's dive in and see where it takes us. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. So I think we're living in a world right now where there's just so much going on, right? It's just everything is being turned upside down and inside out, and there's chaos and there's crumbling and all of these things that we've been talking about, right? And out of that, the beauty of that is there are deeper questions that we're asking ourselves. What has meaning? What has purpose? What is my purpose? What is my mission? Why am I here? Why are we here? What is this all about? Right? And and there's this, I think, this need, this yearning, this desire to come more towards one another again after years of really seeing the isolation of our own kind of nuclear pods, the isolation that like physically occurred in 2020. And then I think because we're in such polarized times, there's really the severing and the fragmentation of that polarity, of the opposing ends of things. And I think within that, this question of belonging comes in to the fore, because we're we're creatures of we're social creatures. We're social creatures. And also from the etheric soul realm, we're used to being one. Not meaning, when I say that, I don't mean that we're all just like one blob of light, right? We come from the great blob of light, but that we very much have our own individual soul self. Like that is a personality of unto its own, but that we're outside of duality, we're outside of that polarity, we're in the feeling of unity. It's the most beautiful analogy that I find for this is the drop of the ocean, right? The drop is its own beautiful, unique entity, but it is inherently a part of the ocean, right? So you can pull a drop out, but it's not separate to the ocean, really. So we know this on the other side of the veil. And when we come here, there is this natural feeling of separation because we're in these bodies that are very kind of contained and limited. and there's feelings and survival instincts and all of these things that then in the interpersonal dynamics we can get triggered, we can feel. I'm sure all of us have felt this at one point or another. We can be with a person. So I'm really stumbling on my words because I'm so tired today, so thank you for your patience. You can be in a relationship, or you can be in a room of people, or you can be in a city of millions of people and feel alone. You can feel like you don't belong, right? And so it actually has nothing to do with even just proximity. It has to do with a state of being. So when I was younger, I definitely had the feeling of not belonging, like I felt outside of, and even my Enneagram type speaks to that. When I discovered my Enneagram type in my 20s, it was so like, oh wow, okay, I'm not the only one that's like this. So there was the part of me that understood I'm not from this planet. And for some people, that's going to be like normal language, and for some people, that's going to be super far out for you, and that's okay. Wherever you are in your path, take it or leave it, right? But I can only speak from my experience and my truth and my own inner knowing. So I knew that I wasn't from here, and so there was automatically this feeling of not fully belonging. Like, this isn't my home. I'm visiting. I'm a traveler. I'm coming here to do work, but it's not home. So there was already that immediate sense of I don't belong here. But I think that was almost accentuated because of my childhood, of just the circumstances, and also probably a bit my personality of feeling like I was on the outside and I was alone and I was different, and I was the black sheep. And because I was so observant, I felt, the observer has to sit back and witness, right? And so there can be an element of that feeling of separation and therefore not belonging. And when I was younger, I was much more shy. And it took until my early mid 20s when I was doing a course on authentic leadership that I really understood. I just spoke about this on a podcast, actually. Check it out. It's coming out this week on Doll Killer with Cécile Delepierre. I speak a little bit more about this. But it took until my mid 20s in this course where I recognized that it's like, oh, I need to, if I want to feel connected, I need to connect to others. If I want to feel seen, I have to show myself. If I want to feel heard, I need to speak. I need to use my voice. And so everything comes from the inside out. So the first point of belonging, which is very obvious and clear and simple, but not always easy, is that we need to belong to ourselves. But I think we can get, on a personal note, I felt triggered by it yesterday. This is why I tend to do podcasts either by what comes through that I'm kind of channeling, or sometimes it's kind of triggered by my own personal experience. And it's like, okay, I'm going to talk about this because I know I'm not the only one that is feeling or experiencing this on this planet. And so yesterday I was at a gathering at a friend's house, and they were doing karaoke, which is like, I love singing and I love performing, but I absolutely hate karaoke. And also part of the reason is that, like, most of the time I don't know the songs. And when it's a different kind of generation and a different culture, they were kind of remembering all of these songs and, really getting into them. And they're like, have you heard this? I'm like, nope. Have you heard this song? Nope. Have you heard this song? Nope. And I'm pretty good at being, different I'm not saying that I'm different and unique and special and like, ooh, I'm my own breed. I don't mean that. I'm okay with being individual. I'm okay with being autonomous. That is my Enneagram type. I'm the individualist. It's one of the terms for it. So I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm comfortable. I think because I grew up and lived in so many different places and cultures, continents, speaking different languages, I can't say that I feel like any one citizen of any one country. I don't feel like if somebody says, "Oh, where are you from?" or what do you feel like? Like none of them, like not even of this world. I'd say a world citizen, and then I say, actually, not even of this world. And so I'm used to that. I'm used to not having this overriding culture that's my culture, that's my childhood, that's my country, I don't have that at all. And I'm pretty neutral about it. I don't feel sad about it. I just feel pretty neutral. But it was interesting in this instance to observe them like having this really good time and like, oh, do you remember this song and this and that? And for one, it wasn't just my type of music at all. So I wasn't enjoying it from that perspective, but it was also like, oh yeah, I have no relationship to this whatsoever. And because I'm still in this transition and in this search for my physical home, my house, and my geographical post on this planet, like it's been 2.5 years and I've had wonderful experiences, but I'm still wanting to like I want to put roots in the ground. So there's a slight trigger around that of, I don't even have my own rooting. I don't even have my own home. I'm not living in my house with my things. My things are still in storage from like 2 years ago. And so it triggers that sense of like, well, fuck, where do I belong? Like I don't belong in this culture and in this time and in these with these songs. And I don't belong in this place because this place that I'm currently staying in, which I had lived in before, brings me a lot of sadness and frustration. And so all of this like stew of emotions came up, and I was in the car with my daughter, and I just parked and I just started crying because it was like, this feeling of where do I belong? Where do I belong on this planet? And there, I'm not going to lie. There are the parts where I'm like, I'm homesick. I'm homesick from my true home that is not here. And yet I remind myself again and again and again, Corinne, you chose to be here. You chose to come here. You volunteered to come here. You're here for a reason. And so whilst I'm here, I want to enjoy it. I want to have fun. I want to do beautiful things and creative things, and I want to be of service, and I want to help humanity, find their heart again, and to bring home into your being, and if I can hold the torch and like be the helping hand, then I'm so happy to do that. But there's also like I need I'm in my mid 40s. I've been through the journey over the last 25 years of finding my inner home and belonging to myself. And I can really truly say that I feel that now. And so you could say, from the perspective of wherever you go, there you are, or your true home is within yourself. And so everything else is kind of like, oh, it doesn't, on a spiritual level, you could say it doesn't matter. But we are in this physical form, in a physical world, still in a third dimensional field. I need a physical house. And I want that sense of grounding and that sense of having roots, like the tree that can really be sturdy and stable, and it can still expand and grow and, move in the wind and dance in the wind, but it has this like, right? And I want my partner, and I want my community, and a certain level of consistency, and therefore freedom. Like I'd love to start traveling again, but from the perspective of I have a home to come back to. There is a place where I on a physical level belong to a place, and that might change. I've changed. Sometimes it doesn't ever last more than 7, 6, 7, 8 years before it's moving on to the next. And that's fine. I'm completely okay with that. We all have our different paths, but I have a lot of Sag in my chart, and I like, traveling and having new experiences and living in new cultures and speaking new languages. I love that. But for whatever the next phase is, I want that feeling of like, okay, I can exhale here for a while. I can be held here for a while by the earth, by the people, by the house, by the physical four walls, and when we have that stability, then we can also go out and explore, because there's a place to return to. The image that comes in my mind as I say that is like the little fledglings that, they leave the nest, but they can come back to the nest. There's that like, oh, it's okay. And then you go a little further and you can come back, and go a little further and you come back. But there's that point of you're safe here. You're safe. And what I mean by safe is not because it's big and scary out there. It's not coming from a place of fear. It's coming from a place of, this is my resting place, right? And for me, home is super important. It's like my sanctuary. I need it to have stillness and to ground and to have peace and to have quiet and to really connect to myself and into my intuition and to source. It gives me so much. So it's been challenging to be almost 2.5 years without it. So coming back to the theme of belonging, the first point, of course, is going to be working on, do you feel like you belong to yourself? And for me personally, that path of belonging to myself comes through self-acceptance. It comes through accepting all parts of myself, all of my memories, all of my traumas, all of my wounds, all of my foibles and flaws and, challenges and all of it. Like, it's just really that simple. Belonging to yourself has to feel safe. It has to feel comfortable. And the only way that we feel safe and comfortable is when we're like, yeah, it's okay to be me. No matter what, it's okay to be me. It's okay to be you. That is just the fundamental need that we have. I think not even just as human beings, but in our soul self, we know that we belong. We know that we're accepted because source is the true meaning and embodiment, if you can call it that, of unconditional love that says, I love you no matter what. People that have these NDEs, I know I talk about it a lot, but they go to the other side and there's no judgment. There's no judgment. Anyone that says, oh, you're under review and your guides and your angels or God is, giving you a review in a way of kind of like, you should have done this better. You should have. No, that's false light. That is not the truth of what it is, because there is no judgment whatsoever. And I love what Darius Wright says is you cannot have unconditional love with a judgment. If you have a judgment, it's not unconditional, it's conditional love. So belonging to ourselves comes through the sometimes really radical act of accepting all parts of ourselves, physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, energetically, all parts, literally all parts. Nothing can be excluded. And I speak a little bit about it on this podcast, Doll Killer, that, my injury was a huge teacher for that. It was a huge teaching because for 7 years I was in pain, and it took me from my passion and what I thought was my purpose and my career and the trajectory of my life. And for most of those years, I hated my ankle. I hated it. I blamed it for taking me away from what I thought my life's path was going to be. And it wasn't until I had this moment where I recognized that I had been so mean. I'd been so mean to it. I'd been excluding this part of me. It's like, it was still a part of my body. Unless I was going to have it amputated, it was a part of my body. And I recognized how mean I had been to it and how much I was rejecting it and hating it. And of course it wouldn't heal. Of course it wouldn't heal from that place, right? But, I don't look back and go, oh, I should have figured that out earlier. I figured it out in the perfect timing. And it taught me so much in that period of 5, 6, almost 7 years about myself and how to be with emotions and how to be with pain and how to be with fear and how to be in the dark night of the soul and in our darkest, deepest depths and in despair and in loss and in confusion. I learned so much about it all, about being human, not perfect, being human. And really bringing in and embodying my soul self, my divinity. So when I had that realization of like, oh, this is a part of my being, and I'm so sorry, and I love you, that's when I healed. That's when I healed. And I met a physical therapist that within 3 months restructured my foot, and that was it. But I wouldn't have been ready before. I wasn't ready before because I had the invitation to see this physio, this one woman I kept on running into maybe like once every 6 months or once a year. And she would say, Corinne, you have to go see this man, Jean-Claude. You have to go see him. He's amazing. No, it's too expensive. I can't. It's because I wasn't ready. My emotional being wasn't ready. My spiritual being wasn't ready. I hadn't learned the lesson yet. When I learned the lesson, then I could physically be healed. So I know this seems like a really big tangent, but all of this is to wrap the feeling of belonging, which has to come through acceptance and the inclusion of all parts. So I did a short video that I posted on my YouTube where I was using this analogy of I had walked into this forest several weeks ago. And the first time I walked into the forest, I was a bit like, ooh, it's a little bit like kind of a little bit scary, a little bit creepy. You don't know how big it is. You don't know where it goes. Where does it come out? Who's in the forest? What's in the forest, right? There was this feeling of a little bit of fear and trepidation because I didn't know it. And then since then, I've been doing that walk, weekly, and I know the forest. And so it doesn't have that same feeling of fear. And the analogy that I use this for is that your feelings in your inner world are no different. that first moment where you put your foot in is like walking into a forest. It's a little bit like dark and a little bit shadowed, and you can't see and you don't know where the path is going. That is the scariest point, because you don't know. But the moment you walk into the forest, you walk into yourself, you get to know your feelings, you get to know your childhood memories, you get to know your wounds, you get to know how to show up for your inner child, you get to know how to be there for yourself, and you get to literally know the terrain of your inner being, just as you're walking through the metaphoric forest. Once it's familiar, it feels safe. And this is why we like things that we know, because it feels safe. Our instinctual center, our survival mechanism, our reptilian brain gets to relax because we're like, oh, I know this. I feel safe. So that's easy to understand with a physical external context, right? Like you go into a forest, once you get to know the forest, you're fine. You're not as scared. But it's no different for our inner world. So you have to walk into the shadowy bits, and then you see, oh, the sun comes through here, and I get used to the sound of like the leaves and the breeze and the birds and this and that and the other. And then all of a sudden it's familiar, and all of a sudden it's safe, right? So this is the relationship that we have to have with ourselves. We have to walk through the shadow sometimes to really get to know ourselves. And then through that, and through the acceptance, through the embracing, through the walking towards ourselves, we begin to see, feel, and understand what it's like to belong to ourselves. So then the extension of that is, do we belong to our environment? Do we feel, and when I say belong to our environment or belong to our community, I mean, just, do we feel like we're a part of it? Do we feel like we're in harmony with it? Do we feel included? Because if we go back to, you can't belong to yourself unless you include all parts of yourself. You can't sever or fragment or compartmentalize any parts of you. All parts have to feel included. I mean, think about just going to school. What did we want? We wanted to fit in, or we wanted to belong, actually, is a much more beautiful word for it, because fitting in is, I need to be somebody different than I am so that I'm accepted. Belonging is, I get to be who I am, and I'm part of the circle, I'm part of the group, I'm part of the tribe, whatever you want to call it. So until we feel like we really truly belong to ourselves, we won't feel like we belong to anything outside of ourselves. Because again, if we're trying to do it outside in, and it's like, well, I'm looking for the inclusion around me. Do you include me? Do you accept me? Do you love me? Do you validate me? And we haven't done that within ourselves. We're either not going to feel like we belong, period, or we're going to feel like it's always a little bit on eggshells, where it's a little bit volatile, where if it's going well, I belong. If it's not going well, I don't belong. And ultimately, we want to be in a state of being that no matter what the weather metaphorically is around us, that we're centered, right? Because we belong to ourselves. But there are going to be moments like yesterday where I got triggered, where that part got triggered of like, fuck, where do I belong? Where do I belong here? I know that I belong to myself, but where do I physically belong? And who are the people that are going to be my, where's my soul family and my soul partner? And we have these needs. And that's perfectly fine. And I think, I was a part of this online meditation channeling, and actually he had channeled the question that I had asked. The question that I had asked was, if love is the most potent frequency, one of the most potent frequencies, and divine union is like exponentiates that potency, why are we in a time that where so many men and women, but especially women, are single? And not we're not looking for the old template of relationship that is based a lot on toxic bonds and trauma and childhood wounds, but we're looking for the new template of relationship that is evolved, the true spiritual relationship, and the template of that is between two sovereign autonomous beings that are interdependently in a relationship together, and really a divine union is what I would call it. And there was an explanation for that, but one of the things that came in that I thought was so beautiful, and I really resonated with this, is that there's something to the yearning. So a lot of us can feel like there's this yearning, and I'm speaking about this in the context of relationship. It could be community, it could be family, it could be the world at large, the collective. This ties into belonging because it's about connection. And there can be this yearning. And sometimes when you think of a romantic relationship, a divine union, looking for your soulmate or your life partner, that yearning sometimes can feel painful, and it can feel lonely, and it can feel isolating, and it can feel sad, and it can feel like that kind of, like, I ask myself, where the fuck do I belong, right? Or who do I belong with? Or these questions arise. And the description that I thought was a little bit of like flipping that around a little bit is that actually, if you can be in the feeling of what you desire and what you yearn for, but that it's not coming from a place of lack, it's not coming from a place of being incomplete and I need something to complete myself, or I need something to fill the void, but that we are complete, that we are whole, and that we are abundant within ourselves. And we know that we have that, because I often say this with love, is that you have to know what something is if you know that it's missing. If you feel like it's missing, you have to know what it is when you have it, right? So sometimes people say, I don't know what love is. I've never had it. I've never had a relationship. I've never been, loved in this way. You know what it is because you know that you don't have it right now, right? And you know what it is because it's who you are and it's our home, right? So what was beautiful about this is that this yearning, if you do not come from a place of lack and not feeling whole or incomplete, then the yearning is actually giving energy to the desire for love. And we need more love on this planet right now. It's not just love between, two people. It's not just love even for our nucleus, our little nuclear family. It's love for all of humanity, for the planet herself, and for the cosmos. Like we're learning, if any of you are following 3i Atlas, and you might have your view or perspective on it, but we're learning that we are intergalactic. We're learning that we're interstellar. Like we're learning that we're part of the infinity space. And so all of that is requiring love right now, because we've been in a long phase, thousands of years, of that which we are not, of separation, of the lack of love, right? Who was it? It was, is it Alex Collier? Is that what his name is? That said that fear is the absence of love. And we live in a world that is driven by fear, that is controlled through fear. Fear indicates that we're in the absence of love. And as you can see, our world needs a lot more love. And there are the people that are still playing out that old paradigm of fear and, division and hatred, really, you could say. And then there are the people that are like, no, enough of this. Like, we just need to love one another. We really do. And we need to you want to bring world peace, you have to be at peace within yourself. If you want to have world peace, you have to really understand, we have to understand the meaning of unconditional love, which cannot exist with a judgment, right? And we've been groomed to judge. We've been groomed to be opinionated. We've been groomed to be opposing each other. So it's the deprogramming right now, right? It's the unlearning. And then I think when we let go of right and wrong, when we let go of the logical brain that wants to compartmentalize things and say, this is right and this is wrong and this is good and this is bad and this is what it should be and this is what it shouldn't be, and that duality and that polarity, in that space that I just described, it's very hard to belong because it's fragmented. When we let all of the labels go and we let go of the division and the polarity and the duality and the judgment, belonging can naturally reside there, because belonging comes out of connectivity and out of acceptance and love. So I just want to say that, if you are in a space where you feel like you don't belong, or that you yearn to belong, or maybe you fluctuate in and out of feeling like you belong in some moments where you really don't belong, you're not alone. You're not alone. And I think asking ourselves the question, I used to always say when I was younger, like it's not what's the meaning of life. It's not the answer. It's in the questioning. It's in the journey that that questioning takes you on and through. That's the point. It's never about the answer. It's about the questioning and the experience and the journey and the evolution that you move through in the process of that. So asking ourselves this question of belonging brings us closer to ourselves, brings us closer towards one another, brings us closer towards earth, towards source, towards the cosmos, towards all things. And so I think it's a really beautiful, important question to ask ourselves. What is belonging to me? What does not belonging feel like? What do I yearn for that allows me to feel like I belong to myself, to others, to this planet, to this realm, to this universe, to this existence, to source itself, to all that is, right? You can get super like expansive. So the invitation today is to simply always start with awareness. A is the beginning of the alphabet. Always begin with awareness and just notice, bring awareness into the areas, moments where you do not feel like you belong. It's always easier to start with that. You don't have to go in that way. You can also start with the places of where do I belong, but because we're in this dualistic realm, look at the black and white of it, right? Look at the night and the day of it. What does it feel like when I feel like I belong? What does it feel like when I feel like I don't belong? What is the storylines that go with that? What is the sensation in my body? What are the emotions that come up with it? What is the trigger that comes into it? What's the childhood memory? There's so much that you can unpack. And if that's helpful, great, go into it. And if it's not helpful and that feels like, whoa, that's way too overwhelming, Corinne, all you need to really do is stay with the physical sensation of when I feel like I belong to myself and with others and with all, how does that make me feel? And when I feel like I do not belong, go straight to the body, go straight to the sensations. And the emotions will bring you in. Your emotions are your messengers. So don't distract yourself from them, don't numb them, don't get rid of them, don't transcend them. Don't. Just stay. Stay, feel, listen. They have so much wisdom to offer you. And sometimes you need to move through the emotion to get to the point of clarity on the other side. If you're looking for clarity and you don't know, you might need to have the like eruption, the volcano, the like the lava that pours out of it of emotions. You might need to feel that first to then come to the point where your body can go and then the clarity comes. And that's exactly what happened to me yesterday. I was in the car. I had a good old cry. I had a good old, like, just in all honesty, like pleading. I found myself in that place, not from a place of being a victim, but it's like, please help. I need your help. I need your help. Show me the way. I need this clarity and I need your help. I cannot do this alone. And once I had gone through all the emotions of it and the frustration and the anger and the despair and the feeling defeated and all of these things, once it came up and out, I literally felt my whole body exhale and I came into this place of calm. And then the intuitive mind came in. And I just heard where I needed to go next. Is that going to be where home is going to be? I don't know. It's a game of connect the dots. You're given one dot at a time. You're most often not given the whole picture as much as we'd really like to have the whole image come through at once. It's just the breadcrumbs. And so it's like, okay, I've received the next breadcrumb. It doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever, but we're coming into a time more than ever where it's not about logic. We are being really, really invited and beckoned, get out of your head. Get out of your head, drop down into your body, drop down into the sensations and the visceralness and the feelings and the emotions and your heart. Drop down. That's where the ascension happens, is down and in, down and in. You cannot go up without first going down and in. A tree cannot grow unless it has roots. It will fall over. So take the time to really plant your roots, because it will give you, I always say this, I use this analogy with relationship, but it's also the relationship to yourself. A house is not a sturdy house without a solid foundation. So take the time to build the foundation Otherwise, your house is just going to like collapse and have loads of problems and cracks in the walls. And so take the time. It's worth it. Invest in it. Like invest in a really solid, sturdy foundation, and your house is going to be like, great, right? So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. And the final message that I want to leave you with is just know that even if in this moment you do not feel like you belong, you do belong. You belong to yourself. We belong together, one another, all of us. We belong to Source. We belong to every particle of existence and consciousness, for it is who we are. With that, as always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. Bye. Thank you for being here with me. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.